Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB games scheduled for Saturday, April 8th, 2023. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comment section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at the premium picks tab at pickdawgz.com. Alrighty, let's get into it. Here are the games in Major League Baseball for Saturday. First up, it's the Houston Astros taking on the Minnesota Twins with Luis Garcia and Joe Ryan as your projected starters. You know, Luis Garcia was one of those starting pitchers going into this season that we had a little bit concerns with when it comes to the new rules for pitchers and the pitch clock. Luis Garcia, one of the slowest pitchers in baseball in terms of, taking time in between pitches. And we saw in his first start of the regular season, he struggled in that game against the Chicago White Sox. 5 innings of work, giving up 7 base hits, 3 earned runs, a home run as well, 2 walks, and only 4 strikeouts. So that does concern me going into this start against a solid Minnesota Twins lineup. On the other side, Joe Ryan is the best starting pitcher in this Twins rotation, in my opinion. He pitched well in his first start of 2023. 6 innings, 6 strikeouts, only 1 earned run, and a nice win for the Twins, 7-4 over the Royals. I think Joe Ryan, pitches well in this spot. He pitched really well at Target Field last season. Definitely had better numbers at home than compared on the road, whereas ERA at home was 3.04 in 83 innings of work with 90 strikeouts, an opponent's batting average of 183. So give me the Minnesota Twins here on the money line at home. Next up, it's the Cincinnati Reds taking on the Philadelphia Phillies. We're going to see Nick Lodolo and Bailey Falter, a pair of southpaws, on the mound for this one. I think Nick Lodolo is going to have a strong 2023. We saw him pitch pretty well in his first start of the season. Although he struggled a little bit out of the gates, he settled down nicely, put together 5 innings of 2-run ball with 9 strikeouts in that game. That was a 6-2 Reds victory. On the other side, Bailey Falter was a starter that I was a little bit concerned with going into the season. He pitched pretty well, though. Got to give him credit. 5 1/3 innings, only 2 runs, but the big thing that worries me, he gave up 7 base hits and only 3 strikeouts. Also gave up a home run in that game to the Texas Rangers. I do think when you look at the numbers, the Cincinnati Reds have hit lefties pretty well to start 2023, so I wouldn't be surprised to see them get to Bailey Falter early. Behind Nick Lodolo, I'm going to take the Cincinnati Reds at plus money. I'm also going to put a little bit on the run line as well at plus 1.5. Next up, it's the Kansas City Royals taking on the San Francisco Giants. There's no official lineup for this game quite yet, as the Giants have not announced an official starter, but we should see Brady Singer on the mound for the Royals in this one. And I also am seeing Ross Stripling on a few different sites for the Giants. On ESPN, I'm seeing him listed as the probable starter, but we'll have to see if he is made the official starting pitcher. If he is, I think the Kansas City Royals should be able to compete in this game. We saw Ross Stripling really struggle in his first start with his new team against the New York Yankees, giving up 4 earned runs, 3 home runs in that game. That was a 6-0 loss for the Giants. And I think in this series, it's a tough series here for the Royals. We have to go all the way out west, and they've already struggled to start the season in their first 2 home series. I think this would be the game that they have the best chance of competing in because they have their best starter on the mound. Brady Singer pitched pretty well against the Toronto Blue Jays. He got the victory for them, for the Royals in that one, and he faced Jose Barrios, so the Royals got a lot of run support early on, but Singer went 5 innings with 3 strikeouts. I'd like to see those strikeout numbers go up, only giving up 1 earned run and 2 base hits though, so pretty promising stuff from Brady Singer. I think the Kansas City Royals can at least compete in the first 5 innings of this game. I don't really trust this Royals bullpen, and it hasn't been very sharp to start the year, so I'm just going to isolate this game to the first 5. Give me Kansas City plus 0.5 a run in the first 5. Next up, it's the Texas Rangers taking on the Chicago Cubs. We're going to see Martin Perez and Justin Steele on the mound for this one. Should be a really good pitching matchup between these 2 lefties who had good starts to the season. Martin Perez went 5 1/3 against the Philadelphia Phillies, only giving up 1 earned run with 7 strikeouts in that game. The only concern for me with his game is he gave up a lot of base runners. We've seen that with Martin Perez in years past where he keeps the ball on the ground, he gets some double play balls, but he also walks a good amount of hitters, can give up a lot of base hits. We saw him give up 8 base hits in that game and 3 walks. So the Chicago Cubs have been pretty good against the left-handed pitching so far this year. Their team OPS is inside the top 10 in the league. So I do think they're going to be able to get some, opportunities with runners in scoring position, more so than the Rangers, who, facing Justin Steele, who had an outstanding start in his first start of 2023. He faced the Milwaukee Brewers, who we know are having a pretty good start to the year offensively. And Steele, he had a nice amount of strikeouts, 8 Ks and 6 innings of work. No earned runs, only 1 walk allowed, which is important because we've seen Justin Steele have some control issues at times. So to see him only give up 1 free pass, pretty promising stuff there from the lefty. I think Justin Steele is the better option on the mound behind the Cubs at home at a decent price. I'm going to take the Chicago Cubs on the money line. Next up, it's the Boston Red Sox taking on the Detroit Tigers. We're going to see Tanner Houck and Joey Wentz on the mound for this one. To me, this comes down to me trusting the Red Sox lineup and their starting pitcher just a little bit more than the Tigers in this game. The Red Sox have hit left-handed pitching pretty well, and I think they're going to be able to get to Joey Wentz early in this one. Joey Wentz in his first start of the season, 5 1/3 against the Tampa Bay Rays, giving up a home run, giving up 3 earned runs with only 3 strikeouts. And, Tanner Houck is not my favorite starting pitching option, that's for sure. But I do like the fact that he's able to miss some bats and earn some strikeouts. We know the Detroit Tigers have had issues with strikeouts this season and last year as well. So I do think when it comes down to it, I think Tanner Houck is the better option on the mound, and I think the Red Sox are the much better lineup. So give me the Boston Red Sox here on the money line. Next up, it's going to be the Miami Marlins taking on the New York Mets with Trevor Rogers and Kodai Senga on the mound for this one. This is another rematch between these two teams and this same exact pitching matchup as Senga got the better of Rogers in that first game. He went 5 1/3 innings in his major league debut, giving up only 1 earned run. He had 8 strikeouts in that game as well. Control was off a little bit, but overall, really strong outing for Senga. On the other side, Trevor Rogers struggled in his first start of 2023. He gave up 4 total runs, 3 of those were earned. Gave up a home run, 2 walks in 4 1/3 innings, and he took the loss in that game, a 5-1 loss overall for the Marlins. It's tough. A guy like Trevor Rogers, who struggled against the Mets last year, already struggled this season. It's tough to back the Marlins when their offense just isn't really trustworthy. And if this was a team that I could say, although Rogers may struggle, the Marlins will back him up offensively, it might be a different story. But the case is last year and to start this year, this Marlins offense has really been inconsistent and more so consistently to the bad side of things. So I'm going to take the New York Mets here and lay the run line at home. This is a New York Mets team that plays really well at Citi Field, and behind a strong start from Senga again, I think they're going to take this one. So give me the New York Mets. I'm going to lay the 1.5. Next up, it's the Oakland Athletics taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. Shintaro Fujinami on the mound for the A's, and Jeffrey Springs on the other side for the Rays. I do think Shintaro Fujinami is going to be able to find his control and have a solid season for the A's in that rotation. We know he struggled, last start against the Angels. He walked 3 batters. He gave up 5 base hits and 8 earned runs in the end, but he still had 4 strikeouts in those 2 1/3 innings. So there is definitely some potential in his game. It's just tough to back him in this spot against Jeffrey Springs and a very red-hot, Tampa Bay Rays team. Jeffrey Springs, his first start was outstanding and one of the best starts of the season by any starting pitcher. He went 6 innings, no hits, only 1 walk, with 12 strikeouts against the Detroit Tigers in a 5-1 win. Now, I know those Detroit Tigers are not a very good offensive team, but neither are the Oakland A's, and against lefties, they're near the bottom in most of the important hitting stats. So I do think that Jeffrey Springs put together another strong outing. I think the Rays are the type of team that will definitely make a pitcher pay if he loses his command on the mound. And if the Rays take a bunch of walks early on, this could be an ugly start yet again for Fujinami. And the Oakland A's bullpen, not really trustworthy either. So give me the Tampa Bay Rays here. Not a very good price again, but I'm going to lay the 1.5 runs. Next up, it's the Seattle Mariners taking on the Cleveland Guardians. Another rematch between these two starters in Marco Gonzalez and Cal Quantrill here. Now, Cal Quantrill and Marco Gonzalez both with ERAs above 7 to start the season, as both guys struggled in their first starts. We saw Marco Gonzalez give up a home run, a 3-run shot to Mike Zunino in that game. He went 5 innings, 4 earned runs, 6 hits, and only 1 strikeout for his final line. I do think he struggles yet again in this spot. Guardians team that last year at the beginning of the season did not hit lefties very well, but at the end of last year and the beginning of this season, they've certainly improved those numbers. When you look at the numbers right now, the Guardians are ranked 12th in team OPS against lefties. Their isolated power numbers not as strong, but this is still a team that limits strikeouts, and Marco Gonzalez is already a starting pitcher that doesn't earn a lot of strikeouts. So we're going to see the Guardians put the ball in play almost every single at-bat in this game. That's bad news for a guy like Gonzalez who gives up the long ball in bunches. And on the other side, Cal Quantrill, although he struggled in his first start really with his control, walking a lot of batters, two batters walked in 4 2/3 innings with 8 base hits. I still think when you look at his numbers at home last year, not only was he a win machine, he went 9-0 last year, win-loss record at home. He also had a much better ERA at 3.28, opponent's batting average of 234 compared to 282 on the road, and he had his strikeout numbers go up in his home starts as well. So I do think that Cal Quantrill puts together a decent start. I'm not going to say an absolutely spotless outing, but I think he's good enough here for the Guardians to grab a W and trust in that lineup and bullpen. So give me the Cleveland Guardians at a pretty good price on the money line. Next up is the Chicago White Sox and Pittsburgh Pirates matchup at PNC Park. We're going to see Mike Clevenger and Vince Velasquez as the projected starters. This is a tough game for me as Mike Clevenger struggled in spring training. He struggled in the regular season of last year, but he did pitch pretty well in his first start of the season against a tough Astros lineup where he went 5 innings, giving up 3 walks and 3 base hits, but no earned runs with 8 strikeouts in that game. But still, we saw Clevenger in spring training. His strikeout numbers weren't great. He was giving up the long ball in bunches, and he had a 6.89 ERA. I do think that on the road here, this could be a tough spot for Clevenger, facing a Pirates lineup that's been better than expected, in 2023 so far. While Vince Velasquez on the other side, another starting pitcher I don't really trust too much, as in his first outing, we saw him give up 2 home runs to the Cincinnati Reds. We know the long ball has really hurt Vince Velasquez in his career. I do think the White Sox will be able to get to him for a few runs early. The Chicago White Sox bullpen going into Friday's games, they're the worst in the league in terms of bullpen ERA, the worst in the league in xFIP and SIERA as well. So I do think we're going to see some runs scored from both of these teams early and often in this game. That's why the total's set pretty high here for a PNC Park game. So give me the over in the White Sox-Pirates game. Next up, we see the New York Yankees taking on the Baltimore Orioles. Nestor Cortez and Cole Irvin are your starters in this one. The Yankees' team OPS right now against lefties is ranked 28th in baseball, but that's 41 plate appearances, one of the lowest plate appearance totals against lefties in all of the league, and it's a pretty small sample size overall. Their isolated power numbers are much better, and I expect them to get to Cole Irvin still in a game like this where, Cole Irvin last start, 4 innings, 8 base hits, 6 earned runs, a home run against the Red Sox. I can't trust Irvin against a very righty-heavy lineup for the Yankees. Guys like Judge, Donaldson, Stanton, Trevino or Higashioka catcher, Volpe at shortstop. A lot of righties in this lineup for the Yankees, DJ LeMahieu. So I do think they'll be able to get to Cole Irvin, quite a bit early, and against the Orioles bullpen as well, the Yankees should be able to score. But on the other side, Nestor Cortez is interesting because going into Friday, the Orioles lead the league in team OPS and isolated power against left-handed pitching. We saw last year they weren't great against lefties, but they made some improvements to start this season. However, last year, Nestor Cortez absolutely dominated against the Orioles. He went 18 1/3 innings pitched, so plenty of innings against the Orioles. He didn't give up a single earned run. He had 31 strikeouts in those innings. He was basically spotless in those games. But like I said, that was an Orioles team that did not hit lefties too well. We're seeing the improvements to start this season with a new look lineup for the Orioles with a lot more of their prospects in the lineup. And I do think they're going to be able to get to Nestor Cortez for at least a few runs in this spot and break that scoreless streak against Nestor. So I do think we're going to see a high-scoring game in this one, and I think we're going to take the over here in the Yankees-Orioles ballgame. Next up is the St. Louis Cardinals taking on the Milwaukee Brewers with another game with the pair of lefties on the mound as we see Eric Lauer and Jordan Montgomery as the starters. I do think the Cardinals, we see them as pretty significant favorites here on the road, and I think for good reason. I'm looking at their team total over in this game, over 5 runs. St. Louis last year against Eric Lauer, 17 innings of work Lauer had against them. He gave up 15 base hits, 10 earned runs, 4 home runs, and he only had 11 strikeouts with 7 walks to go with it. So he really was not sharp against the Cardinals. And we know the Cardinals, a great lineup against lefties in 2022. To start this season, mixed results against left-handers, but I still think a team that limits strikeouts at a really good rate. I think they're going to be able to get the Lauer for 3, 4, maybe even the 5 runs we need to push at this. And I think we're going to be able to add a few runs on the Milwaukee Brewers bullpen once we get to it. I think the bullpen will be coming into this game pretty early for Milwaukee's. I just don't love this spot here for Eric Lauer. So give me the team total over, lean towards the full game over, and the Cardinals on the money line as well. Next up, it's Michael Wacha and Charlie Morton on the mound for this Braves and Padres matchup. Now, Charlie Morton was a starter that I faded in his first start of 2023, and although he was not good at all in that start, his Braves lineup was able to back him up, and we're going to see that a lot of that this season. It's the Braves rotation dealing with some injuries and some inconsistencies, but the lineup is just scoring some runs at really good rates. So we saw in that game for Morton, he went 5 1/3 innings with only 1 strikeout. He gave up 9 base hits and 3 earned runs, but the Braves scored 8 runs for him in the end, and they won 8-4. So I could see another similar scoreline in this one against Michael Wacha, a starter that I'm also not too fond of going into the season. He struggled in his first start of 2023, 6 innings, 6 base hits, 4 earned runs, a homer, 3 walks, and only 2 strikeouts. I think we're going to see a high-scoring game between these two teams, 2 of the better lineups in the National League. We saw in the first game of this series a really exciting, entertaining, and high-scoring game, 7-6 the final. Wouldn't be surprised to see another scoreline just like that. So give me the over in the Padres-Braves. In our next game, we see the Arizona Diamondbacks taking on the Los Angeles Dodgers with Noah Syndergaard and Zach Davies as your starters. We saw the same exact pitching matchup on April 2nd where the Diamondbacks grabbed a win 2-1 as the final score. And for me, we're getting plus money here with the Diamondbacks at home. I think there's some value here with Arizona. Both pitchers pitched really well in that first game. Zach Davies went 5 innings, 1 earned run. Noah Syndergaard, 6 innings, 1 earned run. But I do think that Syndergaard has some glaring issues in his game, and although he was able to miss some bats in his first start, we saw in spring training of this year and we saw in the regular season of last year, those strikeout numbers just not really dependable. We saw 13 Ks and 18 2/3 in spring. We saw 5.1 strikeouts per 9 rating with the Philadelphia Phillies in 2022 and only 7.2 with the Angels in limited work. So I think the Diamondbacks could be able to get to Syndergaard in this game. I think the Dodgers could certainly put up a fight against Davies, but when it's all said and done, I think we're going to see a close game and a game where we're going to want that plus money in our back pocket. So give me the Arizona Diamondbacks here in a lean at plus money. Next up, we see the Washington Nationals taking on the Colorado Rockies. Trevor Williams and Austin Gomber are your starters. For me, these are two starting pitchers that I don't really trust too much, and I don't really trust either of these bullpens either. So for me, I'm just going to take the plus money with the Nationals in a very, very slight lean. I also lean towards the over, but it's pretty chilly weather in Coors Field right now, so it's not great weather for overs. We'll definitely get more, better spots to take overs at Coors Field later in the summer. But Trevor Williams is a guy that's going to give the Nationals some innings. He doesn't necessarily pitch too well at Coors Field, but neither does Austin Gomber, who had an ERA above 5 last season pitching at his home field. Like I said, getting plus money right now, plus 125 on the money line in a game that seems like a virtual coin flip. Not a bad idea to me. So in a very slight lean, a game I'm staying away from pretty much, I'm going to take the Nationals on the money line. Next up, the final game for Saturday's card in Major League Baseball. It's the Toronto Blue Jays and the Los Angeles Angels. Jose Barrios and Tyler Anderson are your starters. And I got to continue to fade Jose Barrios in his road outings, as we saw last year an ERA above 6 in his road starts with the Blue Jays, and we saw in his first start of 2023 on the road at Kansas City, one of the weakest lineups in baseball. Barrios still gives up in 5 2/3 innings, 9 base hits, 8 earned runs, 2 walks as well. Now, he did have 7 strikeouts, which is a little bit of a promising sign, but now you're facing a much better lineup in the Angels, and you're facing a starter in Tyler Anderson, who's a lefty who pitches well in his first start, 6 innings, shutout ball against the A's. And the Blue Jays, their numbers overall against lefties to start the season have not been great. They're going into Friday's games ranked 20th in team OPS against lefties and 26th in isolated power. So give me the Angels here at a decent price here on the money line. And that's it. Those are the games for Saturday in baseball. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comment section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.